Let me introduce myself. My name is Titania Silkan Sapira. I will discuss about sampling. Types of samples in quantitative research. In quantitative research, sampling methods are divided into two major categories: probability sampling and non-probability sampling. The selection of the type of sample depends on the purpose of the research, population conditions, and the analysis techniques to be used. 1. Probability sampling. In this technique, each member of the population has an equal chance of being selected as a sample. This technique is highly recommended in quantitative research because it allows for more accurate generalization of research results to the population. The types include simple random sampling, where each element in the population has an equal chance of being selected. Stratified sampling, the population is divided into several strata, layers, based on certain characteristics, and samples are taken randomly from each stratum. Systematic sampling. Sampling based on a certain pattern, for example selecting every nth member of the population list. Cluster sampling, the population is divided into groups, clusters, then several clusters are randomly selected and all members in the cluster are sampled. 2. Non-probability sampling, non-probability sample. In this method, not all members of the population have an equal chance of being part of the sample. Although less than ideal for statistical generalization, this technique is often used when researchers face limited access to the population. The types include convenience sampling, sample selection based on ease of access or availability of respondents. Purposive sampling, sampling based on certain criteria or objectives determined by the researcher. Quota sampling, researchers determine the number, quota, of subjects based on certain characteristics, for example 50% men and 50% women. Snowball sampling. Samples are obtained from previous sample recommendations, used especially when the population is difficult to reach or hidden. Sampling criteria. In order for the sample taken to truly represent the population, there are several criteria that researchers need to consider, namely: representative, the sample must reflect the main characteristics of the population. If not, the research results cannot be generalized. Suitability to research objectives, the sample taken must be in accordance with the focus of the research and relevant to the variables being studied. Adequate sample size, the sample should not be too small because it can produce statistically insignificant results, but also not too large to remain efficient. Randomization, in probability samples, selection must be done randomly to avoid bias. Population homogeneity or heterogeneity, if the population is homogeneous, then sampling is easier. However, if it is heterogeneous, stratification must be considered. Ethics. The sampling process must uphold research ethics, including participant consent and protection of personal data. Sampling basis. Sampling in quantitative research should not be done carelessly. There must be a clear and rational basis for selecting samples, namely: research objectives. Researchers must adjust the type and sampling technique to the research question and the analysis objectives to be achieved. Research design. In experimental or survey designs, selecting the right sample is essential for internal and external validity. Population size. The size of the population is a consideration in determining the technique and number of samples to be taken. Population characteristics. If the population consists of various groups with very different characteristics, it is necessary to use stratification or cluster techniques. Statistical analysis techniques. Some statistical analyses require a certain sample size and specific assumptions, such as normality and homogeneity of variance. Logistical limitations. In some situations, data availability or field conditions limit the techniques that can be used. In this case, researchers can use non-probability techniques with strong justification. Conclusion. Samples are a vital element in quantitative research because they determine the extent to which research results can be used as a basis for decision-making or policy. A thorough understanding of the types of samples, sampling methods, and criteria that must be met is an absolute prerequisite for researchers so that their research results are accurate, valid, and can be generalized to a wider population. Therefore, sampling is not just a technical procedure, but a strategic part of research design that requires careful consideration and proper planning.